This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Well, I hope you're ready to stop wasting time on LinkedIn and social media and Facebook ads and all that crazy marketing crap that doesn't work, because with me today is Steve Martile, and he is going to set you straight on what's really going on with prospecting that works. Welcome, my friend.
Thanks for having me, David.
So I have been mystified by LinkedIn, and I spent a lot of money on Facebook ads, and I do a lot of webinars and JV launches, and I've bought all the t-shirts, I've made all the mistakes, and I think a lot of folks listening are confused, scared, don't know where to go when it starts to talk about lead generation. How do I get more people to talk to? How do I get more people in my funnel? How do I build more relationships and connections with people who can buy from me? So let's start talking about that. But even before that, Steve, I'd love to hear your story and sort of how you came to the work that you're doing today, and what were some of the milestones along your professional journey. And then we'll use that as the springboard for our chat.
Okay, cool. So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, actually. And I was working with a company locally here. So I'm about 4 hours north of Toronto in Ontario, okay, in Canada. And what happened was I've been posting socially for a long time, but I started to get a lot more active. And one of the owners of this company, doing some contract work with them, and they said, I'm trying to shorten the journey because I'm like, a lot's happened in the last 11 years since I've been online. But this is very recent, and it relates back to what's happening on LinkedIn. And I'll set the premise. What's happening is that there is a huge gap or vacuum between the demand for content on LinkedIn. There's a huge demand for it, but the number of people supplying content is not meeting that demand. So when you post something, you reach way more people than you would on Instagram, Facebook, any other platform that I'm seeing. TikTok would be the only exception. So I started posting content, and I got attention of one of these owners. And this is a $70 million Canadian a year business, plus something like that. And the one owner says, I see you all the time on the feed. I want you to sit down with the other owner. So he calls the other owner in. That gets the meeting. So basically being in the feed got me the meeting. And then when I say in the feed, in the LinkedIn feed, posting content, I post once a day, at least sometimes twice. I just posted another just right before this conversation. And we got into the conversation, and I kind of explained the strategy of what we would do, which I'll talk more about today. But one of the owners said, I said to him, one of the things you guys want to do, they wanted to use LinkedIn, not for lead gen, to get recruitment, and especially trades, because, and when we sat down, I said, you really want to have a reviews videos like this as part of your kind of repertoire, your quote unquote funnel. And the one owner said to me, his name's Steve, just happens to be Steve. He goes, can I watch that video? I said, yeah. So I'm sitting there with my smartphone in the meeting. We're all watching this 90-second video, which is one of my previous clients. And they watched the video, and then the one owner said, I'm in. So to get the meeting, you need attention, okay? And so in that transition with them, doing a lot of work that had nothing to do with marketing, and then all of a sudden they hired me to do their marketing. So I'm their marketing guy. So you go from and that's why I was telling people, it's like, if you want 5-6 figure contracts, get attention first. Get attention first. And the huge benefit that we have right now, David, is that I posted my first video on YouTube back in 2009. Okay, YouTube was hot back then. I would have paid a lot of money because I had to put in 8, 9, 10 hours to put out one video and then get 100 people to watch it. I would have killed for that. I worked my ass off just to get 100 people to read an article that I spent 9, 10 hours working on. Where today, I post something and an hour later, 100 views comes in. So it just blows my mind that the opportunity that's available right now. Now, will it be available in 1-2 years from now? I have no idea. It might not be, because a lot of people have figured it out, and then demand will be satisfied, right? It won't be circulated as well. So what I'm saying is that you get attention first. Everyone's got one of these nowadays. If your market has one of these, even if you're a roofer and you work with lawyers, they're on LinkedIn, man, right? Get attention by putting stuff on the feed, posting content right in there. Now they see you 5 days a week, 6, 7 days a week, maybe even the weekends. And then 2, 3, 4 weeks goes by. They're going to be thinking about you because they're seeing you all the time. You get conversations from that. So I'm kind of jumping around. But what I see a lot of people that come to me, we've got a 5-day challenge called I Love LinkedIn Leads. And I had this one guy came out to me today. He goes, I already brought another program, but I want to get into yours. And I said, you know what? I took a look at some of his stuff. I said, dude, you got to stop posting your services, your product, what you're selling. No one cares. Like, just create value for people. Like a short 1-minute video or short article. Now, here's the great thing about LinkedIn versus when I got started blogging in 2008 to get the calendar right, is that right now you post an article on LinkedIn feed, you only need to be 300 words because you can't post any longer than that. So it's like short little anecdotes, just something of value, start a conversation with people, and then allow them to contribute. Now, what happens is that I amplify that a bit by using pods, a LinkedIn pod. And a LinkedIn pod is basically a network of people. It can be 5, 10, 25 people. I've got 2 that I'm part of. And we all go in and we like and we comment on each other's stuff. Now, if I don't want to comment, I don't have to, but I can like it. But let's say that you go in and you're part of my first degree network, right, David? And then you like one of my articles. Well, now everyone in your network sees it. Now, you can imagine if you have like 2 or 3 people that like your stuff, and you agree to do it for each other as part of this commitment to each other to grow and expand and increase your network. What happens is now you're getting way more exposure than you would have if you're just doing it on your own. Not to mention the fact that you've got some friends and some colleagues that you're kind of all working together to help grow each other. And you don't even have to be in the same market or in the same country. So it's really exciting because there was 550 million people on LinkedIn as of about a year ago. Now there's like 650. So 100 million people have been added, a lot of them in the US. But what's even more exciting is that because of all the crap that happened with Facebook in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, where people's privacy got violated, LinkedIn has voted, I think it was in Business Insider that I saw this, as the most trusted social network now. So that's why more people are going there. And then the benefit on top of that is people want to consume news. The content is available to get circulated by a lot of people. So I jumped around a lot there, but that's just kind of the beginning.
No, absolutely. I've got about a zillion questions for you, but let's give people the URL for the 5-day challenge right now. It is stevemartile.com/5day. And Steve's got more resources and links. We're going to post all of these right below this episode at thespeakingshow.com. But that's the 5-day challenge. That's where you can start to get some of these insights and ideas. I want to go back to a whole bunch of things. Number 1 is about the 300-word articles, because there was a lot of talk when this first came out about LinkedIn publishing and writing the kind of blog-like posts on LinkedIn that they call articles now. We're not talking about that. We're talking about articles that are in the feed, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Not articles themselves, but in the feed.
Those are updates technically, but we put a 300-word article into an update instead of posting it as an article.
Absolutely. That's exactly what you do.
Now, are articles kind of dead in the water? Is there any point to doing the longer articles, or that's not really necessary anymore?
You can link out to them for sure from your feed. You can link out to a podcast or a YouTube channel as well. And that's one thing I'd say initially what a lot of people do is they're just starting. They start posting to external resources, a website, a YouTube channel, a podcast. And to be honest, that doesn't get circulated. That it does not a vote of confidence from LinkedIn's point of view. From what I've seen in my experience is like, post your videos and your podcast in the feed. Like maybe take a snippet of it, post it in the feed. Take your article, post it in the feed. You'll see the reach on that type of thing get way more circulated and way more eyeballs than if you like post a link out to your podcast. Give a little snippet. You're seeing it a little bit now where someone takes a 1-minute clip from their podcast or a Zoom video and they post it in the feed and then there's a link out to the podcast. You can do that, but give the value in the feed. Don't have people go off the platform. That's like one thing right out the gate.
And then the other thing you mentioned that is super smart and that never even occurred to me is have this sort of referral posse, right? Have your pod, have you call them a pod of 10, 15, 20, 25 people who are all committed to promoting each other's content, liking, sharing, commenting, etc. Is that going to make us look weird on LinkedIn? Like, do you recommend that we share? Because we're posting once or twice a day. Does our feed sort of get clogged up, or do we only share a small handful of these, or how does that work?
You know what, man? Like I spend about 90% of my day like giving, right? So like when I heard the concept, I was like, a couple people were doing it and I'm like, you know what? I could use the support network. I'm going to start my own. I joined another one. I just jumped in. So is it going to ruin anything? I don't know. It's been great for getting profile views, for increased network growth, for more followers, web traffic. Like I track everything, right? So I'm like seeing people coming to my profile, but then I'm also seeing my web traffic go up. I'm like, I don't promote very often, right? Like the 5-day challenge I talk about a bit. So yeah, I don't see a downside to it because what it's doing is increasing your network reach. Now, I mean, at some point, it might not be as of value to you as in the beginning, but for people who are just getting started, there's no better way to do it because what it does is it ensures to you, it gives you assurance that someone's going to be reading the article, right? And then once you start to see the network growth and you start to see the people viewing your, and then, veer off the pod, but no better way to get in is to start with a community.
Hey, good looking. Are you currently getting paid to speak? Would you like to ramp that up? We can help. Book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team at doitmarketing.com/call, and let's see what we might do together. The call is free, but the results may be priceless. Let's talk about the folks that you like to work with, because I think this is also very, very interesting. And, don't feel shy about saying this because I love the clarity of what you have on your website about who this is for. And you work with folks who have some kind of high ticket service. And your definition of that is like $5,000 and up. So we're not selling $25 ebooks. We're not selling like $197 courses necessarily. That they have a legitimate business and a proven track record of getting their clients results. That's important. And that you are confident that you can get your new clients results also. And then what you do with them, you break it down into 2 very simple steps. I'd love to hear a little bit more detail on each of these. Number 1, you've already mentioned, be really cool to your tribe by giving away free content that gets circulated and lives longer on LinkedIn. And then the second part I really want to dig into, which is make irresistible offers that give your business an unfair advantage over your competition. Now, you, of course, have an entire done-for-you service that helps people do this, and you coach them and you do some of it for them. How do those 2 steps factor in about becoming a source of helpful, valuable, information-based content and then making irresistible offers that give you kind of a head and shoulders head start over any competitor?
So there's a lot of components to like having an irresistible offer that sort of like out matches anyone else in your network, right? Or in your market. I had a client that I worked with this summer and we were working together and I said, do you have a guarantee? And his service was about up to $5,000 to $10,000 and he was doing recruitment. And I said, well, what's your guarantee? And he said, my guarantee, the way it works is we will work with someone, recruit someone, fill them in the position, help the company train them. And then if they leave within 6 months of them being hired, we will find someone else for free. I was like, wow, that's compelling. So having a really good guarantee is something that makes it just, out of this world where it's like, oh, and getting him appointments was really easy for me because he had a great offer. So that's part of it. Now, if you don't have an offer and you don't know what you're selling or you don't know what it is that's competitive, then you got to do your research. But you also got to like kind of go through and make mistakes and screw up and kind of battle test your offer is what I call is like, you got to put it out there and like, you're going to start with something that's probably going to be lukewarm, but the more and the better and more confident you get at delivering your service, then you can up the ante. And like what he did was just brilliant. So, and he had about 150 clients who'd been through his program. So he had that battle tested offer. So that's one aspect of the offer. To be honest, David, like I've got like a 90-10 rule, and the 90-10 rule is like 90% content and 10% offers. And the offers are like, a lot of people think you got to put content and do call to actions. And I discovered earlier, I started really going heavy on LinkedIn recently in the last, I would say, January, February this year. I started really going heavy on it. And what I noticed is that like you don't really need to have a call to action in your content. You just got to create value for people, create a conversation that is valuable to people, create insight, inspire people. And you can educate and entertain as well. But like whatever your style is, for me, that entertaining is not really a style. It's just about like, getting people to take action. And so if you do that enough, what's going to happen is your profile views are going to be high, which means you've got attention, which is the whole deal, right? And if you got attention, people will go to your profile. That's where we put the offer. An offer that's really well in tuned with what the market's desire is. That's what we throw in the LinkedIn profile. So then they can go to your calendar link or they can go to your program offers on the profile. So you don't really need to shoot the offers in the newsfeed and be like, hey, I got this and I'm got this program. And you might throw a testimonial or a case study in the newsfeed, which is a great content idea, but it's all about value add first. And like, so 90-10 is 10% offers, 90% content. And that seems to be the sweet spot. People will come to you when they're ready.
Let's talk about that, because I think there's two kinds of LinkedIn marketing and sales approaches. One kind is, hey, give us your LinkedIn account, tell us who we're after, and we will do all kinds of outbound messaging. We're going to message them. We're going to get into Sales Navigator. We're going to say, hey, Steve, great to connect with you. And I'm happy to put my network at your disposal. You, poor Steve Martile, you say, okay, David Newman, I'll connect with you. And then boom, I hit you with an offer. Hey, Steve, thanks for connecting. Here's my $17,000 thing. Or here's my $500 course. Hit me up if you want a coupon code. LinkedIn now has gotten a bad reputation because of these kind of practices, that it is one of the spammiest messaging platforms, maybe the highest value community and the highest value feed, but the most spammy messaging channel. Tell us why you don't believe in that outbound prospecting with LinkedIn messaging and how this is faster, better, cooler, smarter.
Okay, so it's not faster or cooler or smarter, and this is a long-term game play, but because I did it. I'll give you one example, okay, David? And it works, let's be honest. Messaging still works if you personalize, right? So I ran a campaign earlier this year, 4,500 people in the network, target market. We messaged them all. And it was basically like, hey, I see this is where you are, this is your company. And it was like a business program.
And a one-on-one, personalized, real human message.
I see an opportunity for you to grow your business. Would you like to jump on a call? Now, there's a lot of strategy behind that. It does work. We had about 45 people out of 4,500, I think those were what it was, that replied, yes, I'd like to have a conversation. But out of those 45, only 6 booked a call. So that's what I mean. It says that it works, but you're really playing a numbers game. And when my client got those results, he says, is that normal? I said, yeah. And he said, why? I said, because you don't have, not credibility, because we build that into the message. There's actually client video testimonials in the PS. So the credibility is there. But these people don't know this person from a hole in the ground. If you had their attention first, i.e. had been creating the content for 3, 4, 5 weeks, especially like if you've been doing it for longer, and then came out with that message, probably would have worked a lot better. But the reason people don't jump on the call is there's a fear, like, is this guy going to sell me, right? And he's a really nice dude. And I had said to him, content's really the way to go with this, but he didn't want to do that. I think the reason that I did it and the reason that a lot of people still do it, outbounding messaging, personalized messaging, is because it's easy, you get a quick win. But the real work that you got to do is you got to build your reputation by getting the attention of your market. And if they like you and what you're presenting in your videos and your content, they will come to you. I get messages, people coming in and tell me all the time. But I'm creating content at a level that probably not a lot of people are, at least daily, right? So I don't do it anymore because it's not as effective. I think it's an easy way to get a quick win, but long term, if I want to get 45 out of 45 conversations booked, post the content first, then reach out with the DM.
So Steve, this is truly inbound marketing, right? We are waiting for them when they're ready to say, hey, you know what? I've seen this guy, Steve Martile, online. Really smart guy, really nice guy. I've read his content. I read his videos. I'm ready to get serious about my LinkedIn prospecting strategy and my ability to attract the right kinds of sales conversations. I'm going to reach out to Steve. So it really is, it's putting yourself in a position to be contacted, emailed, called. We're not reaching out to them. There's no spammy component to this, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the offer itself, like I said, is on the profile. You might post something in your feed that's like, hey, I've got a 5-day challenge or I've got a webinar you might want to check out. But that's like not the main focus. The main focus is to generate attention and value for the market and then post something to an opt-in. What a lot of people are doing is the opposite. It's 90-10. They've got most of their stuff is, I want to get a capture, I want to get an email. And you can test this to see your conversions on your landing page. If you want to drive someone to an opt-in or you want to drive someone to a program page, test it. And I guarantee you'll see a dramatic difference if you post content 90-10 and 10 offers. So there's no outreach at all in the messaging app. You don't need to do it. You can if you want, but you don't need to do it. And the reality is that if you're doing this, creating the content and you've got the attention and people like you and they're just like, I'm going to work with this person, then what's happened is that because, and again, this is going to change over the next year or two. There's going to be way more people posting content, which is going to make my job a lot harder. But right now it's easy for me because I love creating content and I know it's getting the attention because I measure it. So the bottom line is, if you like creating the content and you know that you want to get attention, now's the time to do it. A year or 2 years from now, maybe just creating one post a day might not do the trick. So again, the environment's going to change, but right now, no, there is no direct messaging. People actually message inbound to me.
This sounds like a dream come true, dude. This sounds like what everyone needs. What a great episode. Wowza. Tell you what, if you want to ramp up your revenue as an expert who speaks professionally, you should really check out our free online training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. So let's talk about the alternative to doing this, which again, I'm just going to pick up right off of one of your web pages. The things that you don't need to do. No webinars, no bots, no automation, no batch and blast, no Facebook ads, no LinkedIn ads, no joint ventures, no revenue sharing. You even write the copy for people, and then no manual time-consuming tasks. So people say, okay, Steve, this is great, but what you're talking about sounds like magic. So tell us why it's not magic and how your actual service works so that people can get an idea of who's the man behind the curtain and what's really going on here.
Two things. One is that I've changed the way I do things. I'm not a done with you necessarily anymore. We'll do it with you. And the reason I switched is because we're getting you, the client, to create the content. Now, I will help you strategically come up with 10, 20, 30 ideas so you have content for the next month, but it's up to you to actually take those headlines, draw the content, write it out, and post it, or do the video, or whatever it is. So if you got attention, you're going to get activity. That drives people back to your profile, right? Now, that in essence is going to be the machine to drive your content. But there's more to it than that, because like I said, you can still build groups on Facebook, on LinkedIn. You can still have a group of people there. But more importantly, when you're creating your content, it's really about creating strategic content that not only gets attention, creates value, but builds credibility. So you want to be doing all of those at the same time. So the machine to this is really the content creator, the person that's creating the content. If you don't like to create content, you're not going to be a good client for me, and you're not going to like my program because you're not going to get anything out of it. So it's really got to be about someone who wants to create the information, then share it with other people. Not everyone's prepared to do that. So there is work involved. But I mean, if you're spending more than 30 minutes, 40, 50 minutes a day creating content, then you're doing it wrong. So yeah, the service, the way it works is, number one, we come up with your perfect buyer. First, we've got to figure out who it is that is your perfect buyer, okay? And then second is, once we've got that, we'll go in and we'll do a bit of network growth if you want us to do it. But with the organic reach now, you don't need to do it. You can honestly just do it from scratch just by posting the content. So the fuel to this entire process ends up becoming your free LinkedIn profile and putting the content out there to do it. So that's one good client for me. Now, I do have some bigger corporate clients where they actually want me to generate the content for them. So what I do is I'll go in and actually interview their staff and use that as the fuel to drive content growth. Right now, I've got about 18 pieces that are going to go out over a month for this one client. So we do a bit of that as well. But at the bottom line is, if you're creating content, and you're posting it on LinkedIn or you're posting it on maybe Instagram or Facebook, all I'm saying is go over to LinkedIn and you can do this on your own. If you want our help, then we can come help you strategically to get your program and your offer. Now, there's a couple of the things that we do in the backdrop, which is like, we want to make sure that when people reach out to you, it's not just someone trying to pick your brain or someone who's just like wants to learn more about your program that has no urgency or desire, like a strong desire to make a change. And number two, that has money for your services. So we have a qualifying way to like qualify people as they go through that process. So that's all part of our like 12-day setup. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's who a good client is for me.
No, absolutely. And then I think the other missing piece, the other sort of sticky flypaper, which we haven't talked about yet, but I'd love your take on it. You mentioned people will start to look at your profile. You mentioned, hey, your profile needs to be set up in a way that people go, oh, I love this guy. I've seen the content. Now I look at the profile. Now I'm going to reach out to him or her. What needs to be in that profile? And when clients first come to you, what profile mistakes or gaps do you see the most often?
Yeah, good question. I'll start with the second one first, David. So, your title under your name is where most people just butcher it right out. And then the reason is that your profile, when you comment and like, and you're in the feed, that's the first thing everyone sees. When you post content, that's where people see. If you post a comment in a group, that's what people see. If you like or comment on something, that pops in their feed. So it says your name and then your title. Your title just needs to speak to your perfect buyer. I help, this person achieve this outcome by this amount of time, right? Or something simple like that. And most people do not have that down at all. And I believe it's because they're not clear on their perfect buyer. They're not really sure. Do they work with companies who are 1,000 plus employees or like 150 to 200, right? Like you could get that granular and that specific because it's polarizing. It speaks to one person, but not the other. If you're just going to be like, I help business owners, that's everyone. That's everyone on the platform. That's like a mistake I see is like that title needs to be really dialed into your perfect buyer. For example, the one I came up with earlier this week with a new client was he does risk management. And we talked about what was happening with Facebook, what's happening with Google, what's happening with a lot of social sites is that their privacy of their personal data, credit card data, like name, address, all that stuff, is not safe anymore because people don't have the infrastructure in place. And because of that, some of these sites are getting hacked. And then when they get hacked, what happens is the customers, they lose trust in that company. So we put that right in the copy to help you with risk management so that you don't lose the trust of your customers, your stakeholders, and your clients, right? Put the fear right in the headline. Right out the gate, that's something you've got to really nail as the headline. Secondly is like in the profile itself, drop your offer in there. And my offers, as you were talking about it, David, are pretty simple. It's like, here's what I got. Here's who this is for. Here's what I want you to do next. You can also put client testimonials in there, a little link to your calendar or a link to your website. They want to learn more. The bottom line is if you're posting content regularly, they don't need to learn more because you're not only posting content that is like educational or inspiring, you want to post stories too. So I take some stories from some of the oldest stuff that's happened to me. When I got into coaching to going from engineering to coach, when I had my bike accident in Switzerland when I was 23, like all kinds of stuff where I'm sharing. And I had one guy say to me, we were on the phone and he goes, I feel like I know so much about you, but you don't know anything about me. So the profile is just your offer and like a couple testimonials and that's it. Now there's some other like software and apps that you can use to monitor traffic to your website, which I encourage a lot of people to do. Are people coming from Great Britain? Are they coming from the US, from New Zealand? What are they doing when they come to your site? Using heat maps and like there's so much behavior stuff you can use once people get to your site. What Q&A stuff are they reading on your program offer? Like there's so much more you can dial in once you've got the traffic and the attention, is that you can improve that and refine it based on what people are focused on when they go to your program page, right? So there's ways to track that and way to do that legally and ethically. So there's a lot more to it. But yeah, that is what drives people back to your website.
I think you just blogged about that recently, correct?
Yeah.
About the heat map software and all that cool stuff. So, I mean,
So cool.
even, definitely we're going to connect people with the 5-day challenge. We're going to connect people with all the other cool things. But your blog is another resource where people, there's your URL in your LinkedIn profile. Now they go to the blog and now it's like, oh, this guy's really cool. He's sharing even more stuff on the blog now.
Happy to do it.
There you go. So you are not only a really smart consultant and coach and mentor in this, but you're using these same gosh darn strategies yourself.
Absolutely, man.
That's the highest compliment that I get, by the way. So
Awesome.
Sometimes my clients or even prospects say, listen, you're either teaching it to us or doing it to us. And we're watching both. And I'm like, of course I'm teaching it to you and doing it to you. I wouldn't be a high integrity person if I was preaching one thing and doing something different.
Absolutely. Which explains why we're talking.
I guess it does. I guess it does. Two guys who walk the talk. Well, this has been so fantastic, Steve. Thank you again. Let's wrap up with two final questions. The final question is all the URLs, all the links, the 5-day challenge, the blog, everything that you want folks to connect with you on. Even before we get to that, though, my second to last question is, if folks were to take one central idea from all of these smart lead generation, being of value, being of service strategies that we've talked about, what do you hope that one central takeaway might be?
Is to just go post something on LinkedIn right now. And I'll give you even a great content idea. What is a question that your audience or your customer or your client is afraid to ask? And go and post that on LinkedIn right now. And then go check in 2 hours and see how many people read it. And I think you'll be surprised.
Love it. Wow. Okay. The website, once again, links, everything's going to be under this episode at thespeakingshow.com. Steve, where can we send people?
Yeah, stevemartile.com will get you to the 5-day I Love LinkedIn Leads Challenge. And then freedomeducation.ca, that's the blog hub. So all the content's there as well.
Fantastic. You are a wealth of information. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This was a truly profit-rich interview experience.
Awesome, David. Thanks for having me.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.